Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be giving you, I'm going to be talking about the 2020 to 2022 North Node in Gemini transit, part 3 of 4. And in this segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit's possible impact on the zodiac signs Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. And yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, people, well, first off, as far as Aries goes, the third house is what's going to be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time for Aries, well, you might find yourself being directed toward more diverse communications. You may have to address an issue or more, perhaps with a mercurial or fickle sibling, a cousin or neighbor, or dealing with mischievous activity, perhaps in your neighborhood. This could also be dealing with also people that may be, it could be about just being more loquacious with third house people, and including people you knew in your early education. Your future at this time might be very strongly tied in to matters in communication, and also just assimilating information very quickly. Could be learning a little bit about a lot of different subjects right now. It might be in matters also with short journeys. It could be just simply being more inquisitive at this time. You're talking about the North Node in Gemini in the third house. So this is this could really be a very good transit at this point in terms of your communications at this time, Aries. And this is a thing where, as far as your local communications in your neighborhood, this is what is where you may very well be directed toward at this time in your mission. At this, you feel that you're connected with this point in time. Could very well be tied into third house matters, such as assimilating information, dealing with local transportation, and also in just with siblings, cousins, and neighbors at this time, and just being very, and it could also be doing things of a dexterous nature in your neighborhood, in your general area, and such as working on vehicles, repairing cars, if you do have that ability. Anyway, well, for Taurus, the second house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So for Taurus at this time, this could be about getting in touch. Really, your future at this time may be very well tied in to getting in touch with latent talents and abilities. It could be, in some cases, could it be ability for mimicry, or it could be being very more perhaps eloquent that you maybe have given yourself credit for, being able to multitask. It could also be really at this time for Taurus, it might be your future and your destiny may be tied into at this time obtaining a very diverse value system at this time, or being more flexible in terms of what you value, valuing multiple things, perhaps not just being tied up to one certain value or value system. It could be at this time as well where your future, your destiny, where you're directed toward at this time, Taurus, might be more about being able to communicate, articulate matters in terms of having a better, more improving your self-esteem and your self-worth at this time, expressing versatility, and really, and it could be about valuing shrewdness and street sense more at this time, more so than anything, and also just simply about valuing being inquisitive, asking more questions. This could be where you feel more directed toward in trying to develop these attributes at this time, and these abilities, and also again going back to the fact this is the house connected with talents and abilities. Perhaps, latent abilities. There might be ones that may have been dormant for some time, and it could be where at this time you might feel like this is the time to work on them. It could even be things that are of a dexterous nature, such as working on on vehicles, and all repairing cars. It could be something connected with writing, journalism, anything that could be connected with communications. It could be data communications. It could just simply be tied in to generating income from something Gemini related. Now, next up, well, for Gemini, the first house is what's going to be emphasized and highlighted. So for Gemini, keep in mind that the North Node in astrology can also be about issues that one may have to confront or address. For Gemini, it could be some issues with the physical body at this time. It might be something associated with the lungs, or something with the shoulders, or the arms, the hands, something like carpal tunnel syndrome. It's something that could be Gemini related. It could just simply be spreading oneself too thin, and trying to do too many things practically simultaneously, which could be tied into some vitality issues that one may have to address at this time. But it could also be about your future at this time, Gemini, and where you're going might be tied into Gemini, like new beginnings. It could be something in a communication field, such as data or satellite communications, writing, journalism, broadcasting, doing things of a dexterous nature, such as work doing auto or refrigeration mechanical repair. It could be something too in terms of your appearance at this time. Gemini, Gemini rising especially can often be very thin, slender in appearance, and it could be something, or maybe, for example, maybe if you feel you're too thin, you might be trying to do something in terms of your appearance to be heavier at this time. It could be gaining a more youthful appearance. Gemini rising can often be especially Gemini rising can often be very youthful. I mean, Gemini in general can, but especially the Ascendant, because of course that dominates the appearance. But it could be where you feel you're directed toward at this time, maybe obtaining a more youthful type appearance and look, and also where your outlook is concerned, and even being really just more spirited at this time, more so than usual, and being at this time as well. It could be a time too where you might have to it might be dealing with some issues, or confronting or addressing some issues that were tied in with your early childhood. It could be people that were prominent in your early childhood, and even as far as first impressions may go, it could be something about being a more valuable first impression, more multifaceted, more so even than usual. Gemini is often very versatile and multifaceted anyway, but there might even be more of an emphasis in being directed toward doing so. And also, the North Node can be connected with our attributes that we're trying to develop. Now, the thing about Gemini is that you have a lot of these attributes that are developed anyway, but it might be it might be more of where you're developing these attributes even more so at this time, such as those qualities, Gemini type qualities and characteristics, such as being very communicative, very versatile, multifaceted, quick-witted, being able to be very streetwise and street savvy. So anyway, well, next up, as far as the zodiac sign Cancer goes, the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. Now, at this time for Cancer, a lot of this can be, I believe, being confronting your fears at this time. That could be Gemini related. That is where your mission, your destiny, the area what you're directed toward. It could be where you're directed toward right now and taking care of. It could be about confronting and addressing those issues. It could be matters with con men, or fast-talking salesmen, gossiping. It could be about gaining an understanding that people that are not everybody is about being, I don't want to say conniving, or being, or fast-talking salesmen aren't all about trying to trying to do you in, and things of that nature. It's about confronting those fears and getting maybe a better mental understanding of these people and what to look for in terms as far as these people go, and the character composition of these people, understanding that that the way to eliminate these fears perhaps is gaining more of a mental understanding and comprehension of those people. Now, it's also could be about dealing with hidden adversaries. You might feel that there's some pull at this time where you feel your future at this time may be directed toward trying to outmaneuver people that are actually hidden adversaries that might be posing as friends, but they are really not. Hold on a moment, people. Anyway. It could also be at this time, it could be about articulating your fears, which might be somewhat helpful, or even writing down your dreams. Perhaps the dreams have some significance to them, and it might be a time to be articulating them very eloquently, and also dealing with some secret sorrows that might be tied into slander or gossiping or some kind of prevarication. Keep in mind, it also could be at this time about where you feel, these are, when you're talking about the North Node astrology, it could be about attributes, that are developed, and this could be about just simply being able to develop maybe more writing ability in solitude and seclusion. This could be the time where you're doing your best by yourself as far as that goes, and being able to verbalize if there's any mental illness or there's something that's connected with some limitation that you may have at this time. Expressing these things very eloquently might be the thing right now that you are directed toward, and it could also be showing diversity perhaps in ways of helping those less fortunate than yourself, such as the impoverished, the oppressed, the homeless, and the hungry. So anyway, the next thing up, as far as Leo goes, the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time for Leo, this could be a time where your future, your destiny may be tied in to a Gemini-like goal or aspiration. It could be something connected with communication, such as data or satellite communication, something associated with writing, journalism, something with dexterity, where you're working on, again, like auto or refrigeration mechanics. This could also be a time where you might have to remember that the North Node in astrology can also be about issues that one may have to confront or address. And it could be about issues that are associated with dealing with very dual-natured friends or acquaintances at this time, or at least people that come across that way. They may not necessarily literally be schizophrenic, but schizophrenic in the terms of being very changeable, being very contradictory in their behavior. It could be dealing with really mischievous behavior connected with social media, or even in matters with your computer. In some cases, it could be, for example, somebody hacking into it, and of course, a lot of that is associated with mischievous behavior. If you have any stepchildren at this time, Leo, if applicable, it could be about dealing with some issues with stepchildren that are overly, that are gossiping, that are overly mercurial, or maybe even thieves in some cases. It could even be about dealing with friends or acquaintances that turn out to be thieves. And a lot of this, of course, could be predicated and dependent on aspects that are made to points in your chart. If you have, if this is very strongly afflicted and making a lot of adverse aspects, this is where it could really increase that propensity for just making an adverse aspect to Pluto at any point during the transit. It could increase a propensity for crime, which wouldn't exclude thievery. So those are some ways this can manifest. And pan out at this time. It could also be about being directed toward going into it really ingratiating yourself with types of Gemini-like groups. It could be doing some data satellite communication groups with some with computers, or something associated with writing, with journalism, something where you can express yourself eloquently. So anyway, well, last but not least, as far as a Virgo goes, the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So for Virgo at this time, well, you might be directed toward some kind of Gemini career or vocation at this time. It could be doing something connected with writing or journalism, broadcasting, communications, something that may involve wit, humor, or could be again doing something with data, satellite communications, something with dexterity, such as the use, such as auto refrigeration mechanics. It could be at a time too, Virgo, where you may have to confront or address some issues that are tied in with your reputation and public image. It might be tied into gossiping or something involving slanderous lies. It might be having to deal with the mercurial dominant parent, which is often the father. And also at this time, your future may be tied in to gaining some notoriety and recognition through writing this time, through some kind of communications, whether it could be broadcasting, journalism, or what have you, reporting. This is a time where you might gain more of a reputation for showing versatility by being diversified at this time, and for being able to in multitasking at your position. So those are some ways that this could manifest and pan out. It could also be about where you might be directed toward your future may be tied in to gaining a position of authority, and it might have something to do with very good communicative ability and skill at this time, and being able to show street savviness and street smarts at this time. And it might really help you go a long way in dealing with matters that are pertaining to career, your reputation, and public image. So anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my North Node in Gemini transit video series, part 3 of 4. And stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be talking about the 2020 to 2022 North Node in Gemini transit, part 4 of 4. And in that segment, of course, I'm going to be talking about the transit's possible impact on the zodiac signs Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.